we have to take all of those things into consideration before we make major decisions like that. But I am glad that we arrived at the decision, not only as Seattle, but as a state, to close schools in an attempt to slow this pandemic, because even being a teacher, I could definitely see that there was a lot of worry amongst not only the folks in Seattle public schools, but all across our state. You know, I have parents and families calling me, asking me, you know, do they think they should send their kids to school? All of those types of things. So I think that we're just in a good place right now with what we can do to contain this by closing schools.
All right, so you made the decision to close the schools.
Yeah.
Probably the right decision, and no matter what, clearly it was going to be closed anyway.
Right.
But man, what's the plan?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I mean, we can all agree, like I said, no matter what, the school was going to close because
sure.
Governor Inslee closed all the schools or whatever. What is the plan though?
Right. So the first plan and the major thing that we're focused on is first making sure that folks have access to nutrition, because we know that especially for our kids on the South End, that a lot of our students depend on our schools for food. So there are specific sites that are going to be open currently right now from 11 to 1 where folks can pick up lunch. Just giving those sites really quickly, that's Franklin, Mercer, Akarosi, Rising Star, Dunlap, Rainier Beach, Emerson, and Rainier View for the South End. There is a document that we can link later on that will show you all of the food delivery sites that folks can go and get lunch from all across the city, but those are specifically for the South End. We've been in contact and we are currently developing a pilot program for what delivery looks like, because we know transportation is a big issue. And it's going to be based on bus routes. And for the South End, Akarosi's bus route is going to be that pilot. We're also thinking about what does it look like to serve more than just lunch. We are definitely working on a plan for breakfast and dinner, and just making sure that we have the resources to make sure that that's sustainable. All of that information is forthcoming. We're definitely in close communication, not only with the city, but with other district officials working around the clock to get these answers out. But for 53,000 students, that's just going to take time. And I know that time is not something that a lot of people have right now, but we are definitely working on it and trying to find solutions.
So, I mean, the thing is this, just to be realistic, there's a $1 billion school district.
Absolutely.
And a technology hub.
Yeah.
With nothing but logistics experts and technology experts.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, in Seattle as a whole.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
There's a wealth of expertise.
Yep.
There's a wealth of expertise in technology, communication, and logistics here. This is a $1 billion school district.
Yep.
How come some of this stuff you guys haven't figured out yet?
Yeah, the biggest thing is just figuring out how do we get it to people in a way that is equitable, right? And so what we also have to understand is that from the school district's perspective, the vast majority of our staff are our teaching force. That's where the bulk of our money goes to. And so when we're talking about operations and things like that, we have that in place for teachers, bus drivers, all of our nutritional staff. So when those people, when we send them home as educators to take care of themselves and to stay healthy, we are really having to leverage, like you just mentioned, a lot of those partnerships with major organizations. I know Microsoft is donating 15,000 meals, if I'm not mistaken. Amazon's Alliance for Education is sponsoring Right Now Needs funds, where people can email their principals and other school folks to get resources that they need right now. So we're just figuring out, within the situation that we've been given, how do we lean on all of these major corporations in the city, as well as our district and as well as our city government, to figure out plans and coordination to make sure that we're getting it in a timely fashion to people who need it the most.
Right. So you're saying that nutrition is your number one concern.
Nutrition is number one right now. Childcare is number two, and we are working on a plan for that.
How many kids in the district rely upon school lunch?
I don't have that number for you, but I know if it's even at least one, that we need to figure out a system to where that even that one child can get as many meals as they need to sustain themselves. So I don't have that specific information for you, but we are acting as if the vast majority of our district, which is why we have 26 sites for folks to go get food out of our 104 schools, and we have the most sites, 8 in the Southeast region.
And what's the response been?
The response has been good. So this is the first day that it's rolled out. I haven't gotten any feedback on major numbers, but I definitely know that folks have been reaching out to me saying that they've gone to get a meal. Things are working as they should. I haven't heard from every single site, but we are definitely monitoring and using this information specifically to roll out the rest of our food programs, like we talked about earlier, around breakfast and dinner.
Right. I just want to let the viewing audience know that I'm not being rude or disrespectful,
right.
But because we're doing a live stream here, I'm on my phone because I'm monitoring the stream.
Absolutely.
So it ain't like I'm over here, sending tweets or something while we're having this very serious conversation.
Yep.
So you said that today's the first day with food, so I guess that we probably need a few days to monitor that. And,
Right.
I mean, are you asking anything from the public? Are you asking for patience, for understanding, for feedback, for
I think
anything?
we're asking for all those things, right? Like what we have to realize, and what we do realize actually, is that this is a global pandemic. I don't think anybody was prepared for how quickly this spread. I think that we saw a lot of what was happening across the country across the world in various places. And the second that it got here to Washington State, things move quickly. And in situations like that, I think what we need is for everybody to be ready, right? Feedback is the most crucial piece. We need to know what systems we have that are moving right now that aren't working so that we can fix them. Patience is probably that next part, is understanding that we have this gigantic system that we're trying to move, and we're trying to get as many resources out to as many people as possible. And then after that, I think just continuing to work with us, sending us ideas, sending us, if you know of somebody that needs a specific need, sending us that information so we can try to at least connect them with somebody who can provide that for them. So really just, understanding, patience, information, and feedback. Keep sending us those emails, keep letting us know what's going on in your specific community, because unless we have that information, we can't develop plans into the greater system that are going to benefit you and your family. So we need that information to do our jobs more effectively.
All right, so that's food.
Yeah.
And how long, I guess you guys are planning to provide this until school's back in?
To my knowledge, yes.
And there's a possibility of you expanding service to include breakfast.
Yes.
And so the idea is, because the buses aren't running, so the
Right.
idea is that these food centers, or what's the name you guys have given it?
Whatever you want to call them. It's a school where you can get a meal.
School where you get a meal.
School where you can get a meal.
So is ideally these are within a general walking distance?
Yeah. So we're thinking about
like what rationale went into where you guys placed these food locations.
Highest population, where folks were in the greatest walk area, where is their major population density. So just, all of those metrics that you would typically apply to thinking about where should we be focusing our resources.
Okay. And so you said there's 8 in Southeast Seattle?
Yep. Franklin, Mercer, Akikarosi, Rising Star, Dunlap, Rainier Beach, Emerson, and Rainier View.
Okay, fine. And now you said that your second concern of the district is childcare.
Childcare.
And what does that look like in our district? Because I've had a lot of conversations with people who live in the tech economy.
Yep.
The gig economy, or what it's called, and for them, they can't understand, like, oh, why is this person going out to work, or why is this a big deal? There is a gap in our society of people. It's like poor people are still out working.
Yeah.
And, even people getting these groceries delivered, man, who you think is picking the groceries?
Yeah.
Who you think is restocking the store? Who you think is driving it? And these people's kids are in school. I mean, what does this look like in our district as to, like, I don't know if you guys would have exact numbers, but what a percentage do you think are homes where maybe people will work from home and this is a slight inconvenience, as opposed to parents who is like, man, this is a great hardship?
Yeah. I think that there are a lot of folks out there who are looking at this as not only the most important safety measure we could have taken for their child, but also one of the most difficult decisions that they have to make, because they don't have the option to telework. They don't have the option to take pay time off or whatever to stay at home with their kids. They need to still go out and get paid so that they can take care of their families, right? A lot of folks don't have the luxury of being able to quarantine with pay. So we are definitely thinking as a district about how are we leveraging our relationships with a lot of our community-based organizations who are experienced in providing childcare, and we are working closely with the city and those community-based organizations to see what childcare looks like K through 6. So there is a plan coming. Obviously, as you know, there's a lot of details and a lot of moving pieces that go around with that. And I would love to share some of the ideas, but that would be a little premature at this point. I don't want to give out any bad information. I only want to be giving out information that is going to be useful, which is why I think that maybe we could do these updates on like a weekly basis as more information.
We'd be happy to have you.
That would be great. Yeah. Because what I think the key is that it's a big problem when folks are not getting information. It's an even bigger problem when folks are asking information and they're not receiving feedback. So the more we can do these.
I think, another, my dad always says that a little bit of information is dangerous.
Yep.
And I think that even more than people not even getting all the information is misinformation.
Yep. Exactly, which is why, we got to be very clear when we're communicating these services, because the second, a piece of misinformation gets out there, it's like a firestorm, because then people are looking for these resources, rightfully so, to provide for their families. And when that's not there, that creates more frustration, friction, and that is the last thing that we need as a community right now. So making sure that we're sharing, timely and accurate information, maybe on a weekly basis, I think is going to be a good idea.
Right. Speaking of information, though, what is the district doing? Like, what platforms are there for people to get accurate, up-to-date information from the district? What efforts are you guys making to be able to keep parents informed as to your actions and what you're wanting them to do?
Absolutely. So I know that the district is sending out consistent communications via email and robocalls in various situations. I know that we're communicating closely with various community-based organizations to disseminate information that way. I look at my role in this is to, come and speak with y'all, since y'all have such a large following, especially of parents in our district. I think that, we as school board directors need to be leaning more into opportunities like this, disseminating information through the South Seattle Emerald, through paper. We're just looking for every medium that we possibly can. I've done a video with Councilmember Gramai that's been, on Instagram and Facebook. So there are various different places and platforms where we're releasing information. And so we're just trying to figure out, how do we do that in an effective way to reach as many people as possible?
Right. I was just thinking about something here. I'm sure we have a good portion of students in Seattle Public Schools that's living with grandmama or big mama and them.
Yep.
Not on social media.
Exactly.
It might be... are you guys doing mailings to the home?
That's a good question. I can ask that and get back.
Yeah, let's see, because even us here, as much as we have these cameras and studios and this and that, what I'm saying, we recognize there's a good portion of our population, especially our elders who are caring for these grandkids or nieces and nephews that are in school and they might not be plugged in on social media. So sending them a mailer, you know what I'm saying, to the house might be a good idea.
Absolutely.
Or use of the IVR system. With the automated calls and things like that.
Yep.
What's school? So right now, school's supposed to come back on what date?
It's supposed to come back officially on April the 27th. So that's a Monday. And we've had conversations in OSPI, which is the state director of education, Superintendent Reichdahl, said in a press conference a few days ago that we will definitely be going to the 19th of June. But that does not mean that is the official last day. We just don't know what that looks like, right? And it's going to be on a district by district basis. So the outcome for Federal Way will look different than the outcome for Seattle based on what the school board decides, or if the superintendent will step in. We just don't know what that process is going to look like yet. So definitely going at least until June 19th, could possibly be longer. But I do want to make sure that people understand that there is no way that we're going to expect our seniors or any other student within our school district to make up the entire 6 weeks. Your summer is not canceled. We have just not come to the...
Sure summer's
I'm
not
positive
canceled,
your summer is not canceled. Your summer is not canceled.
Summer's not canceled.
Summer is not canceled. Not at all. Not by any shape or form. And then, to go off of that, we're taking these steps in priority, right? So figuring out food, figuring out childcare, and then figuring out the policy implications that come after that to make sure that folks are still graduating on time, and to do everything that we can to make sure that, this COVID outbreak is not a huge detrimental factor or a liability for a person's academic success, especially when it comes to graduating from high school.
All right, so I'm going to jump into a few of these questions here.
Yeah, for sure.
That we got online.
Yeah, and just to be clear, if I do not have an answer for your question, since we're going to come back, I'm going to be taking these questions down, and I will, as soon as I leave this interview, I'll be sending these off to the people who can appropriately answer them, and hopefully by the next time I speak with y'all on this platform, we'll have some answers for you. So let's get into it.
All right, so now what you're saying is, if everything goes as planned, you're expecting the last day of school to be June 19th?
So what I am saying is that we are going to go into the summer at least until June 19th.
Okay.
So it could be longer.
So at least, I see what you're saying. Right. So right now, school is going to be going on until at least June 19th.
Right.
All right. And so now, again, going back to this billion-dollar school district
Right.
that we have here,
Right.
and this depth of technology and everything else, man. There's other districts that seem like they stopped learning in the classroom, but they're prepared to continue distance learning over computer and stuff like that. What's the story with Seattle Public Schools? Are our kids just out of class? Is this, are they just out of school? What are you guys doing?
I think
as far as public instruction for the 50,000 students in your school district.
Absolutely. And I think that a big piece of that goes to exactly what you mentioned before. We have a lot of our students, I'm thankful that some of our schools are one-to-one when it comes in terms of like having a laptop to actually continue learning. But like when it comes to it, like you mentioned, we have a lot of kids that are going home to grandma and grandpa, and there might not be as many technological resources present at home. So online learning and the way that looks as a district is really difficult to do equitably. I don't know if we have a solution for that. I know for a fact we don't have a solution for it right now. And then when you're thinking
might be different for Seattle schools than say Mercer Island schools,
right,
just based upon economics.
Absolutely.
And what you're saying is if you offer it online, that's cool, but there's a certain percentage of your students who wouldn't be accessible, and then that wouldn't make it an equitable process.
Absolutely. And just imagine, even for like kids who are in, K through 5, we have very specific ways that we teach math, reading, science. And if we were, I know as a teacher, I was able to send home like, a packet that might not even last my kids 6 weeks. But if we have a lot of students who are in, families where they have 2 parents that work 2-3 full-time jobs, who's going to be at home to support those students while they're learning, or even if they're at the child care facility, who's going to be able to support them with the information that we send home in a packet, right? So the question, what I want people to understand is that when we make decisions, it's got to be equitable. It's got to be a decision that can be rolled out for everyone and that everyone has access to.
But all right, man, but we're talking about Seattle Public Schools. And Seattle Public Schools historically, and the word equitably, man, there just hasn't been synonymous.
For sure.
So is this your position? There's whatever Seattle Public Schools needs to be equitable, or is that the position of Seattle Public Schools?
I would say that it's the position of Seattle Public Schools. And I know for a fact it's my position, and I think that you're exactly right. Equity has been one of the most perverted words in the last 5 to 10 years around like, what does that even look like? But when I say equity, I'm trying to make sure that our kids that are coming from marginalized backgrounds, our black and brown kids, who I know for a fact are coming from situations to where they have 1, 2, 3 caregivers in the household who are working full-time jobs and might not have as much access to internet, might not have as much access to a laptop or a device to complete online learning assignments. I want to make sure that those kids are not left out of any conversation, because that just continues to widen the opportunity gap, right? So when we have those types of conversations about what online learning looks like, all I'm saying is that there are lots more moving pieces within that conversation that we have to think about before we just immediately roll out a plan, if we decide to roll out a plan for it.
So but I'm just saying, right now, these kids are on break.
Right. I wouldn't say that they're on break. No. I would say that right now we have kids at home because we are in a global pandemic. Right.
Well, yeah, but I mean, as opposed to other school districts where they might have online or distance learning infrastructure, where the learning or classroom process is continuing. Seattle Public Schools doesn't have that infrastructure at this time.
We do not.
So your 50,000 students are not receiving instruction from Seattle schools at this time.
So
that's what I meant by break. So my fault. I ain't mean to what I'm saying, or whatever. But I mean, we just had the facts are the facts that other school districts are able to continue on.
And I think that there are definitely some lessons learned that we need to take from this.
And this is what I want to say right here is, in any crisis, there's an opportunity. What are the opportunities now that you're seeing moving forward, or what are the things that have been exposed here that Seattle Public Schools can work on, man?
I think one of the biggest things is having a functional online learning platform, right? And I think that we have that in Canvas and so many other things, but it's not working for us, right? What we know is that technology, access to internet, these are things that are viewed as luxuries or like tools for learning in times of non-crisis. But now that we're in a pandemic, they need to be basic necessities, because if we are going to have any situation where kids are going to be able to continue to learn at home, those need to be parts of the conversation. And I think, like you said, there's an opportunity for us to learn from this. I don't want to look at anything at anybody's expense as an opportunity for us as a system to learn, but that's, the reality.
But you got to have some takeaways.
For sure.
No matter what, even in the worst kind of situation, you got to be like, well, what can I learn from this?
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like your communication strategy. Does the school district have the best communication strategy with the students and with the parents? Are you guys able to update things effectively and efficiently? Are you guys able to implement like distance learning or anything like that? Or, these are all things that now, you know what I'm saying? And these also might have been things that somebody at the school board might have been knocking on the door for years. Hey guys, we need budget. We need budget. And they've been ignored. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And now, just like a lot of other people in situations we see in government agencies and everything else, they're caught with their pants down right here.
Yep, you're exactly right. And I totally agree with you. I think that as we move through this process, we are going to be looking for opportunities not only to make our systems better during this 6 weeks, but better in the future if anything were to come through like this. So you're exactly right. And like I said earlier with feedback, if there is an aspect of our system that is not working for you and your family, please let us know so that we can do all that we can to repair it.
Right. And so when school gets back in, let's talk about some of the seniors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, although all the students are impacted, these seniors, what's up, athletics is done. Oh, spring stuff is a wrap, huh?
Yeah, everything that was scheduled between now and April 27th, I would not expect it to occur. I think that there is a case-by-case probability that some of these things, various sporting events and whatnot, can be rescheduled. But really, the primary focus right now, like I've said before, is containing the pandemic. But up until that point, everything that's scheduled from now till April the 27th, I would consider canceled. It could be rescheduled on a case-by-case basis, but we just don't know.
Right. Does sports sit directly there in the school board?
So with
athletics?
Yeah, for sure. I think it does.
So we got a question here from Lucretia Claytor. My bad if I ain't get it right.
Thank you for your question.
Will counselors be made available for college prep, transcripts, and admissions?
That is a really good question, and I saw that question before I came in, and I thought that that's something that needs to be answered. That is going to be one of the questions that I send back. Like I said, I think that I'm trying to think of the way that I want to phrase this. We are going to do everything that we can to make sure that this has as little impact as possible, especially on seniors. I don't want to get into specifics and give out any misinformation. I hear the question. I'm going to get back and answer. I think that it's going to look different based on what high school that you're in and what your specific situation might be as a student. But yes, I think that that's a great idea. I just need to see what that looks like and to communicate that on to district leadership.
All right.
And there might be somebody that's already thinking about that, and I just haven't gotten that answer yet.
Right. And, also when we talk about opportunities and different things like this, what can the district, and you might know this, if not, maybe you could follow it up, can the district provide parents resources? Because, it's like, man, if guys are going to be at home, I don't know if you guys are qualified to give a packet for homeschooling or however it is, but it's like, how can the district seize this opportunity also to be able to create a tighter bond between parents and their child? Because, it's a lot. This is, for a lot of parents, this is the most they've seen their kids. You know what I'm saying? Because they're at work, the kids are at school and things like that. What resources is Seattle Public Schools making available, or can they make available for a parent who's like, okay, I'm home, my kids are here, what's the best route for me to go about to do X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, there are things that the district will make available, I'm sure. But I know that we need resources right now. And what I shared out from my Facebook page was a list of like a lot of different online learning applications that can either be done on a smartphone or on a computer that are now moving. These are typically subscription-based companies, and they're making all of their content free. So what I'll do is I'll share that with you, and you can probably link it under the video or share it out to the community. And I would highly recommend taking advantage. And this list is not complete. There are definitely more and more resources out there that are offering, their services for free during this time. And that's going to be the best thing to do in the interim. And again, just taking those questions back and seeing what is our plan going forward, especially as we get back into school, for making sure that we have kids as caught up as much as they can be before we get out in the summer.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit different because,
Yeah.
you know, when I was in school, maybe not so long ago, but you know, when I was in school,
Yeah.
it was like, you know, my mom had no expectation of Seattle Public Schools to educate her children. Seattle Public Schools was just supposed to supplement as part of the overall education, and I think that right now, you know, for lots of different reasons, not blaming anybody, but a lot of people have an expectation that Seattle Public Schools is supposed to actually educate their child. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if I would really recommend that opinion with them, because when you go to other school districts, you find that parents who have their kids in public schools, that's just one part of their child's education.
Right.
They're still coming at home, they're reading, they're doing this, they're doing that, and educational things and everything else. But, I mean, it would just be interesting to see how parents and community can now get more involved in taking this opportunity. This is the perfect opportunity to take back. You know, people say take back your kids.
Yeah,
Educate, you know what I'm saying? Sit and read with your kids. Have your kids read with you. Work on all kinds of projects. We posted something on our Facebook page last night where it was just a picture of a guy changing a battery and two kids watching. And it's like, man, you know, this is right now, real life is an opportunity for learning. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the classroom. How would you encourage parents to, you know, I mean, this opportunity to teach your kids how to bake, teach your kids how to, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely, brother.
Never stop learning, basically.
Absolutely, never stop learning. And there are there are two different ways that you can do it. First way is to just go online. You can take a smartphone, computer, whatever you got, and Google Common Core standards, especially for kids that are in K through 6. Because if your kid is in a public school, they're going to be responsible for those standards. And they're really a lot easier to understand than I think a lot of people give them credit for. One of the standards is understanding how to add 2 and 3-digit numbers, right? So you can go and look, depending on what your kid's grade is, you can go and look, what are they going to be learning throughout this year? And if you think that you have some expertise, or if you can support them with that, you can do that. But getting back to your point about baking, there are so many ways that we could be spending time with our children inside the home, teaching them about things that, you know, we typically wouldn't have.
It's a whole lot of math and fractions in baking.
A whole lot of math and fractions in baking, brother. And I mean, there's so many like real life skills. Like, what does it look like to change a tire? What does it look like to switch out a battery? Like, or just spending time reading with your kids, you know? I think that one of the resources that I'm going to share with you has tons of books online. YouTube is one of the best resources. You can go and listen to people read books, Storytime online. They have books online that you can read with your kids. Just be creative during this time. Right. And I think that the biggest thing to remember, if you've got the time to do it, is to just keep your kids as busy as you possibly can. You know, during this time, however you can find time to spend with your kids, whether it be educating them, spending time with them, teaching them how to do a real life skill. I think that's going to be the big focus, especially until we figure out what we as a district are going to be able to offer in terms of like real academic supports. Definitely find ways like that to spend time.
And, you know, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you guys, it's been a minute since I was in school like that, but do you guys send out a syllabus or standards to the parents at the beginning of the year? You said something very interesting right there.
Yeah.
You said that parents could go online, the Office of Public Instruction,
Yeah.
they could look up the standards and everything else. My question for you, though, is the Seattle Public Schools send out something at the beginning of the year to say this is what your child will be studying in school? This is what your child will be. You get what I'm saying?
No,
or is this
totally
going to be the first time that people see, like, oh, this is
I don't think that this will be I would hope that this is not the first time that people see this. I think that it goes right. You know, we know what actually happens. But I think that it goes on a classroom by classroom basis about what that syllabus looks like. So maybe your kid might be in a position to where they're having, you know, a packet sent home to say this is where we're going. But then a lot of teachers do it ad hoc to where they're sending like monthly updates, like this is what we're preparing to learn through newsletters or whatnot. So it just depends on your building. You know, there's no official way that Seattle Public Schools does it, but I know that it happens.
Well, you know, I mean, since you guys we're in the pandemic right now, but I mean, that's an opportunity for Seattle school districts to actually formalize their communications with parents and say, this is what your child is going to be learning this year. Right. It's almost like when you sign up for anything, you know, they send you the welcome pack. This is what's going on. This is what you could expect. This is hours of operation.
Right.
Seattle Public Schools might want to send something out and say, this is what your child's going to be learning. I mean, it's crazy, because it's a different generation. My mom was proactive. She used to be up there like, what you trying to teach my kid?
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right. No, you're right.
Times have changed a bit, but you know what I'm saying? We also want to be able to hold parents accountable.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? We got a comment here from Jessica Levine. Says real life is always an opportunity for learning. Yeah, for supporting the idea that education is not exclusively the responsibility of educators and the school district.
Yeah.
So I think there's people out there in the community who realize this definitely creates an opportunity for parents, community members, things like that, to be able to educate our children.
Absolutely.
Technology is great because, technology is there, like we say, YouTube and things like that. Something just as old-fashioned as a book. Something as old-fashioned as...
You're right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Something just as old-fashioned as a book.
Absolutely.
Or, we also forget the art of, like, family storytelling.
Yeah, man.
Man, your great-uncle did this and this and that. It's like there's a bit of time that's there.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
What kind of resources do we have for parents that might, they might just be hitting the wall, man.
Yeah.
2-3 kids at home, they got to figure out how to work, man. Their anxiety is high, their pockets are low.
Absolutely.
Is Seattle school districts able to provide any kind of support for parents that are just hitting the wall, man?
Yeah, man. And I touched on this a little bit earlier, but just more specifically, reach out to either the principal at your school or some contact at your school and ask about what's called Right Now Needs Funds. And this is money that is literally in the school district, in specific buildings for things just like that. If you are struggling and you need cleaning supplies, toiletries, blase, whatever it might be, send that request or reach out to somebody from that school. If you do not hear back from somebody from that school, you can forward that request directly to me, and I will make sure that it gets to where it needs to go. We'll throw up my email, I'm sure. It's just brandon.hersey@seattleschools.org. But yeah, there are definitely things that we have in place, and there are all sorts of other community organizations as well that are working and making sure that we are providing these various things for our community. And as that information about those partnerships, whether it be with the school district or independent of us, comes out, I'll be sure to share it. I'll share it with y'all. We'll just make sure that folks have as much information as they can get.
So just if I hear you correctly, there are some resources that are there for parents that are just, man, because I can only imagine the level. We got a lot of strong people in our community.
Yeah,
man.
but there's only so much a person can take. You know what I'm saying? Like this, 2020 has been tough. 2020 has been tough, man.
And you see the memes where everybody was like, 2020 is going to be my year. It was like,
2020 has been tough. And, we have a lot of strong parents out there that are raising 2 and 3 kids, working multiple jobs. And you are not in this alone. And I think that that's what I want to communicate to you just in general, is that this is not a situation to where you need to suffer in silence. Reach out to us. If we can figure out a way to help you, we will. And if we don't have the means to do it, we will. I know that I personally and many other school board directors and the district in general will work to figure out how can we connect you to somebody who will be able to help you, right? And I think in this time specifically, this is an opportunity for us to really wrap arms around each other as a community. And that is the mindset that we need to have, is just how can we help as many people as we can right now.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's real important. You know what I'm saying? And the other thing is, though, is I'll be honest with you.
Please.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's a lot of situations and organizations where people are like, man, we're here to help. But then the barrier entry is so high.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like the chicken dinner, man. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like people lure you in and like, yeah, we want to help you. Here's a dinner. And then to proceed, though, it's like, yeah, fill out this 200-page packet and do this and that. What's the barrier to the entry? How low is the barrier to support from Seattle Public Schools?
That's a really good question, and I'm glad that you brought that up. I think that,
because, if it's going to require somebody being on hold for 45 minutes and they working all day,
that's not
and,
effective.
the line is only open from like 9 to 5, the same hours that they're at work. If they can't get quick feedback on something, you know what I'm saying? I think that you should really go to if the district. See, the thing is in any crisis, I used to work at crisis management overseas, man. It's crazy. But, man, you got to own something.
Yeah.
So some stuff you can't own. It's pandemic. Some stuff's out of your control. The governor's doing this and that.
Right.
Look for areas of ownership. Let's see how we can own parental support.
Yep.
How can we own it? Maybe so yeah, there's this way. Maybe you guys launch a text line service. Like, man, you got a parent who's just at work. You know what I'm saying? Man, they need food, they need this and that. Maybe you guys, the district takes it upon yourselves to work with a mutual aid, or whatever. You get a text message in from a parent, then you forward it over to mutual aid. Mutual aid is able to drop something off at their house. But you guys got to take some initiative over there at the school board and own it.
Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Some stuff you can't own. It's out of your hands. If the things that you can do to positively impact people's lives in this district, I think is where the district really needs to take ownership of. Yep. And when you guys go back and have these meetings there and everything else with the rest of the board and the superintendent, it's like, what areas can we own 100%? And we take this crisis and turn it into an opportunity to build a better relationship with our students, our parents, and our families in the district.
Right.
So someone can say, man, school was closed. They didn't have online learning or distance learning, but man, the district did everything they could to take care of us. The district supported us. The district didn't leave us on hold for an hour and transfer us 30 times to this and that. The district didn't tell me to print out some form and I ain't got a printer at my house.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or scanner and I ain't got no scanner. The district was able to lower the barriers to entry for help, bro, because help don't mean nothing if
Unless
the barriers to get it are too high.
You're exactly right.
So I'm saying, like, you guys need to really sit there and be like, man, what are the big obstacles that our parents are facing right now in being able to get help and support that we as the school district can 100%. And also you got to lean on these people that are out here. You guys said you already got partnerships with some big dogs like Microsoft. Microsoft's also, they're giving you 15,000 lunches. But, man, look at that amazing brain trust that Microsoft has.
Right.
Where else can they come in innovation to be able to support? I ain't trying to tell you guys how to do your job, man.
No.
But it's just like, man, sitting here in Africatown and Black Dot, man, we deal with marginalized people every day who come through the door discouraged because the barrier to entry for support was too high. It looked great. It looked good on TV. It looked good on the internet. But the barriers were there. And so I just want to reinforce that, man, good works mean nothing if people can't access them.
You're exactly right. And I think that that's a part of refining the system, right? As we continue to provide these resources, we're going to naturally get better and better about how we do it. But you're exactly right. There are some very key focuses that we're trying to own right now. The first thing, making sure that people are fed. The second thing, making sure that, we have a solid plan for childcare. And I think that, again, you're hitting so many nails on the head. We have this gigantic network of tech companies, tons of billions of dollars. We need to come together as a community, not only as like a district or as city government, but as an entire community of this city, and come up with a plan for if, in the unfortunate event that this happens again, we're not having to wait a week to pivot to figure out what do our systems look like. We've already got transportation worked out or a partnership worked out with a specific company. Those are the types of conversations that we need to have in a crisis management plan. And those are things that we're learning right now, and I think that, again, just focusing on making sure that, people are fed, we've got childcare, and that folks are taking care of themselves and not being exposed to whatever might be out there is the primary thing. But yeah, just keep sending us that feedback. If we're missing the mark on something, we need to know that so that we can do better. Right.
Now, I know you answered this earlier in our interview.
Yeah.
We got a community elder just jumped on here, so it takes presence. So
absolutely.
Ruby Holland, she sent a question here, and Ruby again is asking, how come Seattle? Because when they're looking at other school districts, how come education is continued in other school districts via distance learning and not in the Seattle school districts? I know that you answered it before, but we want to show some deference to Ruby, and maybe
absolutely,
you can explain this.
And thank you for the question, Ruby. It's a fantastic one. I think that just paraphrasing what we talked about earlier, we have to think about all of the unintended consequences that come with that, right? So if we don't have a computer that we provided to every single child in this district, online learning becomes more difficult. And how do we equitably distribute that? And then what we have to also think about is who is supporting the kid at home. What we know is that we have a lot of working families where both parents are out of the home, trying to earn a living wage for their families and support them through this crisis. And so for a second grader or third grader, I don't know what an online learning opportunity with no support from an educator, like they're learning with that student, would look like, you know? So I think that we're still thinking through all of those questions. It's a fantastic one, but what I want to reassure is that we are going to do everything in our power as a district to make sure that, you know, once we come to the point to where we are returning to some sense of normalcy, that this 6 week had as little negative educational impact as possible. Some of those things are out of our control, but we're going to use every power that we have to make sure that we move on from this, right? That we get to a place to where we're returning to normalcy and that our kids are prepared and ready to learn when we come back into the classroom eventually.
Right. And so there was a question in there about credits and things like that. So it's right now it's the school board's intention that whenever school resumes, you know, whatever credits are supposed to be, you know, awarded. If somebody passes the grade, they pass the grade.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. There's going to be a solution. We are going to find a solution.
Right.
And, you know, it's not going to be an easy conversation. We're definitely going to have to, you know, come together as a board. Hopefully, you know, we will get more guidelines from, you know, the state superintendent around what that solution could possibly look like, you know. But I think the biggest thing right now is that we are definitely thinking about the same questions. We're not going to spread any misinformation. I do not have an answer for you about what credits are going to look like, but it is on our radar and it is very high on our list of what we need to figure out, because we don't want to be, no one wants to be in a situation to where you've instantly got 53,000 students that have this gigantic pause in their academic, you know, trajectory, and then it impacts them so negatively that they can't graduate from high school. And I don't anticipate that being a thing, but I just don't know what the solution to that looks like.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, because even final transcripts will come out late.
Yeah.
And if you've applied to a college, a final transcript is required.
Absolutely.
Stuff like that. I mean, one thing is at least right now, this is an issue that's hitting the majority of America evenly.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And so I think in some sense, especially when you talk about applying for college and things like that, that you know, there might be some deference given.
Yeah.
So before we get out of here, I wanted to run over the key points again as you outlined.
Yep.
So first of all, you said it's a key priority to you and to the Seattle School District to be able to provide nutritional support to 53,000 students in the district. Right now, we don't have a number of how many people actually need nutritional guides and how many don't. Today was the first day. You're going to be able to gather information as to how many people ate, and then also you're gathering feedback as to how smooth or difficult the process was.
Exactly. Yep.
Man, what kind of food is it there, by the way?
I haven't been out there. I would imagine that it's the same food that we serve to our students, if it's coming from our supply chain. But if it's coming from our partners like Microsoft and other places, it's probably going to be a sack lunch.
Man, so
I don't know what it is
Speaking
exactly.
of equity, then we need 53,000 lunches from Microsoft. Then you know
You're
what I'm
not
saying?
wrong.
We need equity, because I sometimes I'm not saying that I ain't out there in a minute, but it used to be that a pack of tomato was also considered a vegetable.
Hey.
You see what a pack of ketchup was considered a vegetable.
feel
So if
you.
you had some
I feel
ketchup,
you.
it's a vegetable.
Right.
Then you get the Microsoft lunch, you know, a 9-grade wheat bread, Tillamook cheese.
Bruh.
You know, I'm just saying, man,
You're not
equality
wrong.
everywhere.
You're not wrong. I feel
You know what I'm saying, man? I don't know who's out there. You know, Bill Gates ain't there, Steve Ballmer, whoever's out there. We need 53,000 lunches, man.
Right,
You know what I'm
right.
say's let's let all of our kids eat good, man. The ones that ain't picked up at the feeding center, we go drop them off every day down at the food bank or for people that's needy. But you know what I'm saying? Let's step it up. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
What I know that our second point here was childcare, but real quick, while we were just talking about partners, what can other businesses, agencies, companies in Seattle, even if you have a partnership or you imagine a partner, what can other people be doing to support Seattle Public Schools?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing that you can do right now is just reach out. If there's something that you do really well, or if there's some resource that you can offer, please email us over at Seattle Public Schools, and you can send that email. Actually, let me double check to see who the appropriate person to send that email is to for businesses specifically, so that, you know, your information goes where it needs to go. But I think that what's true on the district side is that we are managing so many various partnerships. And so if you know that you have something that you can offer on a large scale that would be beneficial to the students of our district, send us an email. Let's partner. I know that we are looking for every opportunity to get as many resources out there as possible. So if you've got it, let us know. Let's figure out a way that we can work together to get it into the hands of the people that need it.
Right. Now, the second priority that you said was childcare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so we're working on a plan. I think that, we are working very closely with our community-based organizations in the city. Like I said, we don't want to give out any misinformation right now, but know that we are working on a plan, and it should be out in the coming days.
Okay. The third thing is education. Talk about again what at least the last day of school right now would be.
Yeah, so at least at the bare minimum, we are going to be in school until June 19th. It could be longer than that. It could end at June 19th. We just don't know yet. But that is what I would plan for as a family. And it's going to look different district by district, I believe, at this phase and what we know about how the process is going to go. So that's what you can expect. I would not expect to make up the full 6 weeks. Again, your summer is not canceled. But that is where we are at least June 19th.
Right, and we talked about this now. They say sometimes a crisis also makes way for opportunity. Talk about some of the things that parents could be doing with their children, an alternative way of learning than from Seattle Public Schools.
Absolutely. So there are, you can either take the academic route and just go to Google and type in, if your kid's in the fourth grade, what are the fourth grade Common Core standards? They'll give you a list of everything that your kid's going to learn throughout the year in math, reading, science, writing, all of that stuff. And if there's something on there that you can help your kid out with, help them out with that. But then there are also opportunities like we talked about, and one of the things that I thought was really poignant that you mentioned was this is an opportunity to, spend some real bonding time with your kids if you've got the luxury of being at home with them, right? Telling stories, reading books, baking, cooking, passing down those family recipes, telling stories about Uncle so-and-so. These are, there's an opportunity in this because we as a society are just so fast paced. We want our kids to be in, every sport, every club. We are always moving, and, having this opportunity to slow down and really, dig in with your kids, whether it be academically or just, from a family perspective, could be really meaningful. And I know that there are a lot of families that are already out there that are doing that. Share those resources out. There are plenty of, various Facebook pages, even if it's just a phone call to, another family or friend or somebody within your school community. Just reach out, see how people are doing, build that person-to-person connection, because that's one of the biggest things that's going to make us as a community strong, is not losing ourselves in, or at least not losing our personhood and our humanness in this moment right now. Because once we do that, morale lessens, we start to dissolve our bonds that we have with each other as a community. So don't let that happen. Give a phone call, send that text, reach out, see what people need. Because it's really in times like this that are going to show how strong of a community are we in terms of how do we wrap our arms around one another when we need it the most.
Right. No, that's true. And this is also, we got another show that's coming up talking about, what you should be doing right now. It's like some stuff we can't control, and a lot of people are stressing and obsessing. I can't blame them. Right. But, this is a time to, put some of that fear to the side. You said, I wore the perfect shirt today. It says, fear is for others.
You're exactly right.
Because, there might have been documents that you've been putting off reading. There might have been, it's a good time to do your taxes. You
catching up.
It might have been a book that you needed to read. It might have been boxes that you needed to go through. This is a good time to organize your life.
Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying? If you know what I'm saying, if you're set up like that. So, we're encouraging people not to buy into fear, but to buy into what good can come of this.
Absolutely.
What opportunity does this present? Are there any final words that you want to give before we get out of here?
Take care of your mental health, folks. That's the biggest piece. If your mind is not right, the rest of your body is not right. And we have to be strong in this moment, not only for ourselves, but for each other, and most importantly for our children. So take care of your mental health. Reach out to, any services that you might need to make that your priority. And then after that, take care of your physical health. Wash your hands consistently. Make sure that you're getting right, nutritious, healthy foods as you can get access to them if you have the opportunity to do that. Take this time, like you said, take care of your space, take care of your body, and just stay well. That's the biggest piece of advice, or at least my biggest, ask of the community is take care of yourself first. And if you have the capacity after that to help others, reach out, but make sure y'all are taking care of yourselves out there, because we need all of you We cannot afford to let this moment in our history dissolve the bonds that we have made as a community. And I don't believe that we're going to let that happen, but everybody needs a reminder every now and again. You know, we get into this this place of fear, like you mentioned, around a global pandemic, something like of this we've never seen in our lifetimes. And it's scary. You know, I want to give that space where a lot of people are really nervous and scared out there, but don't let that fear take away from your mental health and your humanness, because we need you.
Yeah, you know, it's a saying that it's okay to be afraid or have fear.
Absolutely.
But don't let fear stop you.
Hey, man, that's a great note to end on.
You know what I'm saying? So take this stuff back into the school board, man. And, you know, it'd be great to see what they're going to own.
Definitely.
And take ownership of, and maybe try to excel and be like, hey, out of all the closed school districts in America, we want to be in the top 3 of how we deal with this or deal with that. Set some high goals and expectations for the school board, because our kids are worth it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. We will definitely do just that.
All right. Yeah. All right. So we look to see you back here again next week.
I'm looking forward to it.
We get ready to get out of here. My name is the Big O. This is your guest, Brandon Hersey. You know, coming to you live again. Big thank you to Dancing in the Rain for the live stream. And moving forward throughout this crisis, if you want to call it, we're going to be doing more and more live stuff to update the community. So again, thank you for coming out.
Appreciate it. Peace. Be well.
Peace.
Oh, no, man, that was great. That was perfect. No hammers at all. No hammers at all. That's what the folks needed to know.
For your microphone.
Oh, appreciate you, brother.